Previously on The Fanboys. And then it is Overreaction Week 1. Just kind of go through what you saw and why you will never be attending another game there. He's probably not a virgin. But I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
He's not like Tim Tebow.
Probably my biggest overreaction. Deshaun Watson is going to be the next RG3.
I'm liking to use my preseason predictions because so far I'm feeling good about a lot of them. If you go out and you beat USC, everything's forgotten about, at least for now.
And ever since that... Right. Thanks, Grandma, Nana, or...
So I'd say it was a pretty impressive debut for Leighton Vander Esch, and I'm excited to see where he goes. I'm not pressing the panic button yet on this Cowboys team. I think they're going to go out. I think they're going to beat the Giants.
I got Fitzmagic in me, coming on the Saints secondary. And welcome to the Fanboys. We are fans talking as fans for the fans, and we have a great show for you in store. We've got our first segment and a brand new segment at that. Good or not, we'll get into that a little bit later. We give our college and NFL takeaways. We talk SC football, soccer, and volleyball because everybody's doing so well. And we give our weekly shout-outs, of course, and then we are going to predict who ties next in the NFL. So let's get this thing started. We are the Fanboys, talking as fans for the fans. And Jake, let's start off with some shout-outs. I've got a great friend of mine, Jeb Newhouse. He got to hang out with him a little bit this weekend, and he said that he's been listening to our show, and he's been pretty much agreeing with everything that we say, but he says we definitely keep it interesting. And he said, it's not real corporate. It's also, it's not like one of those shows you hear on ESPN where they just drag out every single conversation. He was like, you guys change it up a lot and pretty quickly. And he said he's really enjoying it, and that's a genuine compliment. That's not something he's just saying because he's my friend.
Yeah, I'm almost a little disappointed in ourselves, though, if an Aggie fan is agreeing with a lot of things that we're saying. I mean, that kind of concerns me for our takes.
Yeah, well, I'll take the compliments while we can get them early on, but later on, we just won't accept that.
It's okay. Jeb knows I love him. And then I as well, I had a shout-out for Adam Schuler. He's been listening in. He's all the way out in Cleveland. We play games a lot together and stuff, but he's a Browns fan. So sorry about that, Adam. But I told him I'd give him a shout-out. He's been listening while he studies and stuff, and so we appreciate everyone who's listening in still, and please feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or anything.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. We've got a follower in Cleveland, Ohio. Never thought I would say that, though, so that's pretty cool. Hey, thanks a lot, Adam. Appreciate it. Let's get into SC sports, man. Talk about the SC football game. I don't know if you got to stream it or not. I did not because I don't have a cable provider to do ESPN3. I stream all my shows and stuff online. But I didn't so I don't have their little ESPN3 package thing that they put it on. But did you get to stream it?
No, I was in Austin, so at the Texas game, so I wasn't able to stream that. I really didn't get to watch too many games on Saturday. I saw bits and pieces of some as we walked by TVs, but we were in Austin kind of prepping for the USC game and then at the USC game, and so I didn't get to see it. I've looked at the box score. I didn't really get to watch it yet. I've been sick this week.
Yeah.
So, bless me for showing up and still fighting through the sickness to record.
Oh, my God.
I'm fighting
Get over it. You're just stop. Just stop. All right, but you're making me sick listening to you. But so we're not going to be able to give you a take of actually watching the game, but we are still going to talk about the Southwestern game. And McPherson was a game that we both thought they should have won, and it was a team going into the game where we thought we had a favorable matchup, and we were both disappointed with the result, as are probably the entire football team and everybody on campus, because I'm pretty sure Southwestern was favored to win that game, and now they dropped below 500 in conference play to start the year off. Still a lot of football to be played, so it's not the end of the world, but McPherson was one of those teams that you and I both agreed on, Jake, that if you want to be in that top 4 echelon of teams in the KCAC, McPherson's, those are the kind of teams that you need to beat.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that I was hoping they would show up and blow out, yet alone, lose to. And so it's a tough way to start out to after starting out the KCAC play, beating Friends, then you lose to a really good Sterling team at home. This is when you're hoping to bounce back in a big way and win by a few possessions, put them away early. And unfortunately, they didn't do that. It looked like they made a switch at quarterback this week to Austin Early, who was neither of the quarterbacks that I saw play against Sterling. And he's actually a transfer from California who's a senior. And he looked like he played pretty well. He's 21 to 36. I think it was like 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Overall, it looked like he played well, but you have to be disappointed about the defense. The defense at Southwestern's been one thing that's been really pretty consistent over the years, and they gave up almost 600 yards to McPherson, who is not a school considered very highly in the KCAC standings.
Yeah, Jake, and and I wonder because when Gordon got out last week, was it because of an injury against Sterling?
No, he just got set because he had turned it over like 4 or 5 times. He had a rough outing.
Okay, I was just curious. So they definitely went with the change at quarterback, and but the running game was still there. And Austin Early, 60 yards on the game rushing. He had 324 yards passing, and then Keyshawn Wyatt, of course, carried the load the majority of the time with 23 carries, 181, and 3 touchdowns. So definitely leaning on the running game. But Jake, something we were talking about before the broadcast was that although we are a little disappointed, actually we're very disappointed in this game, or at least in the result of the game, you and I were both talking, it wasn't that far of a distant memory where this team was struggling to put up 80 yards in a game.
Yeah, I mean, this is an offense that, in all my 4 years there, really struggled to do anything. Last year, they were a little bit better towards the end of the year. So this year, I mean, still off to a better start, but you definitely want to see them start to now get things kind of right the ship, not necessarily turn it around because they've showed they can be good, but right the ship and get back to winning, because in a program that where losing has unfortunately become almost the culture within it, you get some wins and then you lose. It's really easy just to kind of give up moving forward. You definitely want to see them start to fight back and get some W's on the board, because just looking better on the field isn't enough.
No, yeah, and some receiving stats for you guys. Edric Gonzalez is a new name to me. 9 catches, 135 yards, and a touchdown. He led the team in receiving as well. But Jake, going back to that defensive side of the ball, like you said, I mean, you're up 21-7 in the second quarter against these guys, and that's the time when you're on the road and you're up by 2 scores. That's the point in time where you can't let them come back into the game, or else you're not going to win, and that's exactly what happened. When the home team gets that momentum, if you're up by 2 possessions on the road, you've got to put your foot down and keep it down, and you've got to hold them there as long as you possibly can, and that's where your defense, where Southwestern has usually been strong and has been actually fairly reliable in the past, let them down this week.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of like you said, and not only that, but we talked about it the last couple weeks. It's been a theme this year that they get up early and then lose the lead outside of the first game of the year. But in KCAC play, they've jumped out to a big lead in every game, or just jumped out to a lead. They jumped out to a lead against Friends. They lost a 3-possession lead to them. It's 21-0. They jumped out 7-0, and then they led again against Sterling, and they lost the lead each time. Defense and offense never really complemented each other. And then against McPherson, you jump out to a lead on the road. You got to hold on to that, and they weren't able to do so. And it kind of looks like it was a similar story to Sterling, and just a little bit closer of a game.
Yeah, and so we are going to do a better job of actually watching the game so we can give a better and more professional input instead of just looking at stats. I know stats don't tell the whole story. So we are going to do a better job at that. But let's move on to some Southwestern soccer, Jake. Starting off 5-1. They won their first 5 games, started off with the best record in school history to start a season off, 5-0. Did lose this last game to York, starting their conference play at York, though. It was on the road, and that is a long drive. You can kind of fall asleep a little bit. It's in Nebraska, and we're South Kansas. So, I mean, that's a bit of a road trip there, and lost 3-1 there at York. But starting off the season as well as they did, that's got to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, on that long road trip, I mean that's tough on the players, especially since you're in a bus, you're not getting the fly. But 5-0 start, I mean, I know the soccer team struggled to pick up 5 wins in a season when I was there. So
Right.
they're off to a great start. I know they like what they have for a coaching staff. They brought in a lot of young talent. They've been able to retain guys a lot better, which is a big story at an NAIA D2 school is retaining the talent you do get. It seems like they're doing a better job of that, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they do now as KCAC play gets going, and see if they can have one of their better showings in the past decade or even ever.
Yeah, it's possibly ever, Jake. And the KCAC, that's where they've always kind of struggled. They usually get their wins against some scheduled opponents in the non-district where they probably should win those games, and they usually end up winning like 1-0 or something like that. Well, this year they beat those teams 8-0 and 5-0 against Randall and Manhattan Christian, and so those are big time wins against teams that you should beat every year. So, that's always kind of a fun thing to see. That's actual improvement. But, you go down the list, and the KCAC, they have one ranked team, and that team is usually almost in the national championship every year. Oklahoma Wesleyan, they're number 3 in the nation, and they're going to stay that way. So, you can count that as a loss. But all these other teams in the KCAC, they're not ranked. So you have just as good a shot as anybody to make some noise in the KCAC if you're the men's soccer team.
Yeah, it'll be something that we keep track of, and we'll probably talk about it every week or every other week or so. Just kind of keeping updated with them and in all the sports at SC.
And speaking of all the sports, volleyball 13-5 to start the year off. Jake, they have a 6-1 record at Stewart Fieldhouse this season. Now that environment, you and I both know, is extremely fun. You go to Stewart Fieldhouse, you paint up, you're on the front row. I mean, you're basically on the court with the girls or the guys if they're playing basketball or whatever. It is such a fun atmosphere, and they're never going to get an experience anywhere else in the country, I promise you, than in Stewart Fieldhouse. It is such a unique feel, and there's just such history. But they're on an 8-game win streak as that volleyball Mound Builder team.
Yeah, and actually, if you look up Stewart Fieldhouse, you'll see it was on a list a year or two ago of the top 10 most unique gyms in the country you've never heard of.
Right.
And it was on that list, and it was like number 5 or so on that list. So it's definitely, if you get a chance, Google it, check it out. It's really cool. The court looks awesome. It's just a historic looking building. But like you said, volleyball. I mean, I've always felt like the school did a great job of having good student sections for volleyball and showing out for them. But now this year, they're really starting to put on some good performances. They've beaten a lot of teams that are conference teams as well in this win streak. They just don't count as
a conference win,
games because they're at tournaments. But that's still a good sign. They're not just beating cupcake teams or something. They're beating teams they're going to see in conference play. And so that has to be exciting for them as they, get ready to enter conference play, that they can make a run this year and have one of their best years that they've had in a very long time.
Yeah, so a big shout out to SC football, SC soccer, and SC volleyball. You guys keep doing what you're doing. We're going to move on from our college to National College, NCAA. Let's go to our takeaways. Jake, what was your college takeaway of the week?
This has kind of been a slowly accumulating take, I guess you could say. But the Big Ten, we were very wrong about. It actually sucks outside of Ohio State right now to me. I haven't been impressed by any of the teams. I mean, Nebraska just lost at home to Troy. Scott Frost is off to the first 0-2 start at Nebraska since I think it was 1957. I mean, the Big Ten has looked bad. Penn State has not looked very good. The only team they've really just blown out was Kent State. They ended up blowing out Pitt, but it was a close game in the entire first half.
Right.
Michigan doesn't have an offense. They were struggling against SMU at home for a while, and SMU's pretty bad this year. The only team who's been impressive is Ohio State, and TCU also self-imploded a lot in that game with some silly turnovers and handing over some touchdowns.
Because, I agree. TCU probably should have won that game.
The Big Ten has not been impressive.
No, TCU probably should have won that game.
Big Ten, after all we hyped them up this year, they have looked terrible in non-conference play.
Yeah, Jake, and I'm right there with you. I completely agree. In non-conference play, we'll see how they beat each other up in the Big Ten Conference, and if they get a bid. And I think if there's anybody that gets a bid to the playoffs, our preseason predictions are going to be way off, and it's probably going to be Ohio State. We'll get into that a little later on in the show, though. My college takeaway
in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Lost to BYU.
They're done. They're done.
Forgot to mention that.
No, they're done. Like there's nothing Wisconsin can do now. They can go undefeated in conference play, lose in the Big Ten championship. It's not gonna matter because they had that terrible loss to BYU. My college takeaway: LSU is no longer a pretender. They are a contender. They are going to make a run into this playoff system, at least into the SEC championship game, I think, because this team, they find ways to win. And I know Auburn may not be the most impressive team. I realize that. I don't think Auburn had a chance of being in the SEC game, although they were in it last year and no one gave them a shot. So, you got to win the games that you're handed, and that was LSU. On the road in Auburn, War Eagle is not an easy place to play. That's all. That was the most impressive part of that victory, was the fact that it was a grind. It was a tough game. It was hard. It was a tough atmosphere to be in. Your first conference game of the year, and you win by final second field goal. Kudos to Coach O. Coach O. That's grit, baby.
Yeah, I would love to agree. I mean, don't forget they're on the same side of the conference
as Alabama.
Who's a well-oiled machine right now.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I don't know if I'd have them in the SEC championship, but that was a big win for them. The biggest win of the year or biggest win of early on in his career for Coach O. LSU is one of those SEC schools I can easily root for, so I was excited to see them win at Auburn, and that'll be big for them. But, man, it is brutal for them. Now they got to turn around and play Georgia this week, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and then they got Alabama down the road, and A&M is a team that can easily jump on you with Jimbo. They've played solid. They haven't had an ugly game. I'm expecting an ugly game at Alabama this year, but, hey, it's the SEC. Every team can beat anybody. You saw that with Kentucky and Florida, although Florida's not going to be good. But, it's tough. You got Georgia, you got Bama right there in front of you. But if LSU, I've always said this, regardless of the strength of your schedule, if you want to be a national champion, which is what you're playing football to do, if you want to be a champion at whatever level it is, you're going to have to play a good team. That's a newsflash to everybody. You don't just get to play Cleveland every single week and win a Super Bowl. You're going to have to play some tough teams, so I don't care about your strength of schedule. Win the games that are in front of you. But, Jake, we could go on and on and on and on and on about it. Let's move on to our NFL takeaway of the week.
Right, and I'll start out with that. I was looking at ESPN power rankings the other day.
Why?
And they had just
why? Don't do it.
I tried to stop and this isn't about the Cowboys. I don't really care where they had them ranked or anything because they're a hard team to kind of rank right now. But this is about the Pittsburgh Steelers who tied the Cincinnati Browns and then
the Cincinnati Browns
made Cleveland Browns, and then they were playing the Kansas City Chiefs and make a brand new quarterback look like he's going straight to the Hall of Fame. I mean, they got lit up by Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. They're 0-1-1, and where does ESPN have them? Number 10.
Yeah.
Number 10.
That's bad.
That, to me, all power rankings should be abolished. I mean, when I saw that, I was just like, and it's kind of a weak takeaway after week one, but it annoyed me so much when I saw it. I just wrote it down immediately. It was like, this is stupid.
Yeah, no, Jake, I completely agree with you, but here's the thing is you should never look at power rankings. I don't look at them in any professional sport. I don't look at them in the NBA. I don't look at them in the NFL. I don't look at them in the NHL, MLB. I don't care. Power rankings, like you said, should be banned and are stupid from pro sports. You don't rank pro teams. That's just not how it works. It works for college because you need it, but it doesn't matter in the pros. And yeah, Jake, it's the best way to get you triggered, and that's exactly what happened to you.
Yeah, they did their job. I got very triggered by that. I was like, how do you have a team who hasn't won a game in the top 10?
Hey,
I guess they're getting the Alabama treatment.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can think of. My NFL takeaway of the week is probably the strangest storyline in the entire NFL and probably the entire sports year this year. Vontae Davis retired at halftime during a game. If you're just now hearing this, which if you're a sports fan, you're probably not. Vontae Davis for the Buffalo Bills, and they are terrible. He's an older player. He's at the twilight of his career. He's been a lifelong Indianapolis Colt, whatever. He is a Buffalo Bill, and during the halftime, they were losing, and he just went up to a coach and said, I'm done, took his pads off, retired, didn't tell a single teammate. Coaches had to tell their teammates when they got onto the field in the second half that Vontae Davis had just retired. Not quit, not anything like, but retired, will not play football anymore.
Can you blame the guy? He went from playing for the Colts to going, Buffalo went to the playoffs for the first time last year.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go be a Buffalo Bill where they have this great fan base. They just made the playoffs. There should be a lot of excitement. And now they're looking like they may not win a game this year. Can you really blame the guy for
Colts,
wanting to retire?
The Colts with the Peyton Mannings and the Marvin Harrisons and the Reggie Waynes Colts. Let's get that straight. He was on those teams with the Colts. It wasn't this most recent where they have a terrible team, Colts. But, well, I mean, it kind of was. But, yeah, I don't know. Jake, to answer your question, no, I don't blame him. But wait till the end of the game. You can play one more half. Even if you sit out.
I agree with that.
Even if you sit and you bench yourself and you quit on your team during the game, finish out in the uniform and go into the post-game interview and say, I'm hanging up my cleats. Done. I mean, that to me that's the most bizarre thing. You couldn't make it one more half and just not played. You could have just sat on the bench and not played. But he has his reasons. He's come out with out.
Bad career move.
It's a little stained because I really liked Vontae Davis. I really did. And it's almost comical to me. Like, I don't take it that seriously. Like, to me, it's not that big of a deal. But it does blow my mind.
Yeah, it's gonna. I wouldn't want to be him walking on the streets and just like seeing a fan. Like, that's not gonna be fun for him the rest of his life. Or getting in interviews. That's all anyone's ever gonna talk to him about. They're not gonna talk to him about his career,
which was great.
They're just gonna ask him about. Yeah, I mean, it just made no sense the way he did it. I mean, even with his reasoning, it's like you couldn't just one more half.
Yeah,
just do it like after the week and just be like, I thought I could still play. I was wrong. I don't feel this. Give every reason that he gave in his post, but don't do it at halftime. It makes you look like a quitter, makes you look like a loser, and it puts a stain on what was a great career.
Yeah, and yeah. So, like I said, it's not to me personally, it's not that serious of a storyline. It's just bizarre. It's just freaking weird. But anyway, speaking of the NFL, let's stay here just for a little bit, Jake. 2 ties in a row, back-to-back weeks in the NFL with a tie, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on in the show as well. But for now, Jake, we're going to a new segment, Predict the Tie. Who ties this week?
It's going to be the Jets and the Browns.
Ooh,
baby.
Thursday night football.
That matchup. Oh, yeah. That matchup as a whole. I mean, when we decided we were going to predict this, I was looking at the schedule. I was like, first game of the week, and then I didn't look at the rest of them because it was like Thursday night football, Jets at Browns. They're going to think they're going to get those beer coolers that are waiting for them to win a game, and then they're going to tie, but they're still going to be kind of happy as they leave the stadium.
Yeah.
They'll be like, we didn't lose. And how perfect is it for the Browns, who should be 2-0 if they had any type of kicker, to be 0-1-2? The great thing, though, Tanner, is as a fan, when someone asks them their record, you just be like, 1-2.
Yeah, well,
it'll sound like they
1-2.
have 1 win and 2 losses.
Yeah.
Which for a Browns fan is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great, actually. It's great odds. And Jake, I think going 0-1-2 and having 2 losses would be more difficult at this point for a football team than to be 3-0 at this point.
Yeah, it's a lot harder. I mean, it would be – that'd be very impressive.
That would be. It'd be more impressive.
If there's a team that can pull it off if there's a team that can pull it off, I believe in the Cleveland Browns. They can do it.
Yeah, I agree, Jake. And my tie of the week in the NFL will go to the Oakland Raiders. And just because they're playing at Miami, it's a East Coast West Coast game. And how great of a storyline would it be for John Gruden to start his NFL or comeback or whatever with the mighty Raiders? and John Gruden starts off before he gets a win, he gets a tie. I'm hoping it happens, and I just want to see his post game interview. Like his interviews, did you hear what he said this week? He said that hindsight's 50-50. So I just think, I mean, that's not the same.
Wait, no, my favorite thing he said so far was after one of the games, he's like, we got to look and figure out what's wrong with our pass rush because I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Maybe this really good guy that's playing in Chicago that would look really good on your roster.
It's almost
that has a small.
You probably should have just drafted Khalil Mack. That probably would have solved your issues, but they passed on him. You know what? What can we do? And that's just John Gruden's way. And but I just really want him to have a tie and then go into a post game interview, and I just want to hear what he says. Hey man, it's like kissing your stepsister, man. Except she's not your stepsister. She's just your real sister, man. It's crazy. Wow, what a world we live in, man. So, but anyway,
hey, I've seen those videos online, man. It's wild.
It's wild, man. Yeah, you can go to those Family Matters on that Pornhub, man. That's pretty crazy. But no, anyway, so that's who we're predicting for ties, Jake. All right. I'm really excited for this. I want to move on because I'm really excited to start playing this game. We have a new game segment called Good or Not. So here's how it's going to work. It's going to go, and we're just going to alternate. Jake and I are going to just alternate one by one. We have 5 topics, and it can be a name, it can be a song, it can be a movie, it can be a movie character, it can be a pizza, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be sports related. It can literally be anything. We're going to say it to each other, and we don't know. I don't know what he's going to say to me. He doesn't know what I'm going to say to him. And we are going to say whether or not it is good or not, and we're going to give a short reason why, and we're just going to try to fuck each other over as much as possible and put them in a very sticky situation. So, Jake, I will go first. I want to go first with this one, and I'm gonna throw you a little bit of a softball just to get you kind of warmed up. It's a new game, so I'm gonna throw you a softball here. Matt Stafford, good or not?
I'm gonna go with good. It's been a bad start to this year, but overall in the last several years, he has really had to carry that team. So I'm not gonna overreact yet. I'm still gonna say he's good. I think he's done enough in his career to give him a couple games of leeway, which he's definitely using up early in this year. Mm-hmm. But it would take a little bit more to change that answer because he's had too much of a sample size that has been good.
So even as just a purely stat guy, he's basically just a stat guy.
Yeah, to me the stat guy thing is such a I hate that saying.
Okay.
Because basically when you call someone a stat guy, it's like, oh yeah, he didn't have a team around him, so he's a stat guy because he put up great stats with crappy players. Yeah, he sucks because he was a stat guy. I'm never gonna call someone who it'd be like saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers, he's a stat guy, but no one is going to call Aaron Rodgers a stat guy because he has a Super Bowl because they were able to get a decent enough team around him 1 year. But no one would deny the fact that Aaron Rodgers should have way more than one Super Bowl, but the Packers as an organization have failed him. I hate that saying stat guy. It's so stupid.
All right, your turn.
All right, so my first one is different color football fields. So like Boise State with the blue field and Eastern Washington with the red.
Okay, I'm going to go this is a good one, Jake. I like it. I'm going to go with good. Only because it is cool. I think it's cool. I like it. Can it become obnoxious? Yes. There's one, I'm not going to get the team right, but there's one that has like alternating gray and purple stripes, and it's just obnoxious. And it's like, you're going a little too far there. But I think if you keep it not plain, but a solid color, I think it's kind of cool with Eastern Washington having a completely red field and Boise State having a completely blue field. I think it also gives you a home field advantage, and that's why Boise State is so dominant at home because they're just a good home team, and I think Eastern Washington's stats back that up as well. I'm gonna go good. I like it. Me personally, I like it. I know probably a lot of other people don't. But I like the colored fields, and I don't like the crazy ones, the bizarre, the gray, purple, alternating stripes, rainbow colored ones. I don't like those, but I do like the full solid color of like Boise State and Eastern Washington.
As long as it doesn't become where it's a normal thing. That's my thing.
Yeah, right.
But you answered right. If you answered no, it was going to be so you don't like football. So,
right, you're right.
I'll avoid my counterpoint there.
I'll basically watch anything as long as it's football, even if it's on concrete. I'll still watch it. I don't really care. So
Ooh, that sounds painful. I wouldn't play it.
no, but I would watch it. So Jake, my number 2 for you is pineapple pizza. Good or not?
No. No. I don't even feel like I need to back this up. When someone orders pineapple on pizza, I'm just like, what's wrong with you? Think of it as like, do you dip your pineapple in marinara sauce?
Ugh.
If your answer's no, then stop. Yeah, there you go. I backed it up. I win.
No, Jake, I agree. I agree. See, and the thing is, here's my thing. I'm a huge pineapple guy. I love pineapple. I love ice cold pineapple right out of the refrigerator, and I love pizza right out of the oven. Together, it's not a good combo. It's just not.
No, not at all. They are not like carrots and peas, in the words of Forrest Gump.
Peas and carrots. Okay.
All right, so my next one is a cliche podcast about sports from two different losers.
I'm gonna say not. I'm gonna say a big not. I think it's our second not. But yeah, people who just think they can do shit and just say whatever they want about and just trash people when they've never done it and they don't know the hard work that it's taken for these athletes to come up from basically nothing and fight their way all the way to a successful career and how rare it is to make to the NFL or the NBA and really pursue something that they've always dreamt and loved to do. And for two idiots that have hardly even played a sport, at a successful rate, except for maybe some high school sports, for them to judge them and try to become, recognized for that, it's really sad.
Yeah, it's pathetic. That was the right answer. There was no other answer for that other than just no. And, I mean, too many people try to do it now. It's just cliche. Why would you start that up in 2018? Only an idiot would.
Yeah, that's more of a 2008 thing to do before it was, a hipster thing to do.
Exactly.
All right, Jake, well, let's move on. My number 3, good or not, Thanos.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. No. That's
No? So he's not...
I'm gonna go not a good thing.
Okay,
so,
wait.
Great villain as far as the movie goes. But as far as if I said yes, I would basically be saying, oh, Hitler wasn't too bad of a guy either. At the end of the day, he wants mass genocide. Like, I can't get behind saying, oh, just good. I mean, at least he doesn't want to kill everybody, but he wasn't too specific on, I snap my fingers and half the world dies. I can't get behind that notion. Even though there probably are half the people in the world I'd rather not be here because half the people in the world are annoying. But I'm going to go with no because I feel like that would put me in a very bad spot if I said yes.
All right, so you didn't like Infinity War. That's cool. Whatever.
Oh, God, I knew that was going to happen.
No, you don't like a good movie. That's cool. It's whatever. No, you don't like good villains.
Okay.
It's fine.
No, that's fine.
It's your opinion.
Fine.
You can stand with it. Whatever. Hindsight's 50-50.
Okay. Oh, okay, Gruden. All right, country music.
Okay, well, so here's the thing. And I know I can't I know. See, I know what you're fucking doing, you son of a bitch. I know. I know what you're fucking doing. I know what you're doing because if I fucking say no, then you're gonna be like, well, what about all the great hits like fucking Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash? And if I say yes, you're gonna be like, oh, what a fucking loser. You like Luke Bryan and Florida Georgia Line. So fuck you on that. I know what you're fucking doing. Fuck. You know what?
And you're from Texas.
You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, and I'm from Texas. I'll say good. I'll fucking say good because everything from literally the year 2000 in the past, which is a lot more than what we've had now, is really fucking good country music. I'm a huge fan of Waylon Jennings and the Outlaws. I love the outlaw country music. I really do. Johnny Cash is probably one of my favorite artists of all time. So I'm going to say good simply on that, and I know you're gonna fucking say, oh, so you like fucking Florida Georgia Line.
So I guess your plans for the weekend are, go get a cold beer, get on your jeans, get your girl in the truck,
Yep.
Go down a dirt road. Oh, yeah, you're going to put a good dip in, too. Drink a cold beer with a lady in her Daisy Dukes and listen to some Luke Bryan.
Oh, my God.
And then you're going to go to your boyfriend's house and make some sweet love.
Down by the river.
Mountain style, baby.
Down by the river, gonna chew my dip. Gonna get them Daisy Dukes off in my pickup truck. While my dog died last weekend, I lost my job. That's every country song in the world right now. All right, and
hey, you know, if you listen to country in reverse, it's actually really happy because you get your boat, your wife, and your dog back.
back from the dead. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. All right, is it my turn?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Good or not, Jake? John Travolta.
I don't like you.
Just wait till my.
Didn't he like rape kids or something?
Yeah, he's kind. He's kind of gay. Yeah. Like legitimate.
Gay, but like, was it underage? I'm trying to
that
make
might
sure
be.
I, don't,
I think you might be thinking Kevin Spacey, who I was about to go with.
Yeah,
I was about to go with Kevin Spacey.
I don't want to paterno myself, and thank you for not doing Kevin Spacey, because that was like my favorite actor until that happened.
I was going to, but I realized maybe not.
John Travolta, I have to say good. Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie of all time. I can't.
But he was in Hairspray.
I mean, okay, yeah, and he was in Grease, and I don't like musicals. I don't even like Grease.
Grease is pretty good.
So, I don't care. It's a musical. It sucks. But he's in my favorite just for the purpose of how much I love Pulp Fiction, and that movie wouldn't be the same if John Travolta wasn't in it, because Zed's dead, so John Travolta's good. We're going with good.
Okay, all right, yeah, but he's had a pretty wild end of his career. It's been pretty shaky.
So, yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of his movies have been bad, but he was in enough good ones at the start.
No, yeah.
I still think
like
it's
I
good.
said, Pulp Fiction's one of my favorites, so.
Yeah. So, let's go with barbecue not from Texas.
No, not. I'm going to go no, not. You probably have a counterpoint to me. You probably have a really good one, too. I'm going to say not. I just think, barbecue in Texas, the brisket, we do something different here where the entire outside is just charred perfectly and you just get those crispy bites of outer layer, and it's usually a rub. And then the barbecue sauce here is definitely more sugar based and it's a sweeter taste. And everywhere I go,
it's more runny.
It's fucking runny and vinegary. It's like a vinegary kind of like texture. It's like it's gross. Texas barbecue sauce is thick. It's like syrup, but it's barbecue sauce, and it's the best thing in the world. I could probably roll around and bathe in it. And ribs here, you can get the beef ribs, which not a lot of other places have, and the beef ribs are like the size of my actual torso, and it's fucking amazing. You get it straight from the cow, and I just dive into it every time. And I also think you're not going to get a better pulled pork except for maybe in Hawaii, and that's just because they do the old-fashioned like rotisserie style pulled pork. But yeah, I'm going barbecue here in Texas. It's no other match in any other state. Texas wins by a landslide.
No, you answered right. I'm not going to argue that. Okay. I mean, no other place is good. The only thing I would say is maybe like some pork ribs or like
so
Memphis,
pork,
Tennessee
like,
style.
I think pork maybe Texas may not be first.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but brisket, we do something different with brisket. It's called We Do It Right.
Yeah. It's called the right way. Like
that's my opinion.
So I know this isn't barbecue per se, but chili. We don't do that fucking bean stuff. We don't throw beans in our chili. It's an all meat chili. It's meat, and you get chunks. I mean, I'm talking big ass chunks of steak and beef in that chili, and you throw some crackers, some cheese on it, and you don't eat it with a fucking cinnamon roll. That's for all you Kansas listeners out there.
And it's cooked with a lot of beer.
Yeah, a lot of beer. Yeah, so
you get intoxicated off that stuff.
Anyway, Jake, let's move on. We could talk about barbecue probably longer than we could talk sports. I'm going to go with my fifth and my final, good or not, and you're going to fucking be pissed at me. Colin Kaepernick. Be very careful, Jake. This is a trap. Be very, if you don't...
We agreed when we started this podcast that politics were not part of this. No. You know what? No, I'm not gonna guilt myself into saying yes just because I'm gonna get a lot of hate mail for saying no. No, he's not good. He posted in the bottom of the NFL in quarterback rating his final 2 years that he played. He was terrible. Once defenses figured him out, he sucked. His political stance off the field, I don't care about. I don't care about the kneeling thing. I'm not gonna talk about any of that stuff. No, I'm going to go with no. He's not a good quarterback.
Jake, how
He's
dare
not
you?
In the NFL.
You racist
Shut
fuck.
Up. Shut up. Oh, my God.
You are so racist.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I hope this show doesn't get too big or the Twitter social warriors are going to come. Oh, they're going to find my place and burn it down.
Yeah, Black Twitter's coming after you, man.
Oh, God. I'm probably screwed as far as that goes. But, no, he wasn't a good quarterback his last couple years. That's why he's not in an NFL team. Could he be a backup? Yes. Is having a backup that's going to be a gigantic distraction worth it? No.
Okay. All right. I will leave you alone on that.
You.
I'm not coming with a counterpoint. I'm going to leave it at that.
No, we're not going down that
road. No.
I will stop you there. All right. So my last one. And this is behind a lot of controversy of what some of the mega fans say. The new Star Wars movies. So not episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
But
not the prequels. Yeah,
no. Last Jedi,
right.
Force Awakens, Solo. I don't know if you saw Solo yet. Yeah. And then Rogue One.
Okay. Ooh, see, you know what? Fuck it. Because I'm gonna say good. I'm gonna say good. I really, really I loved Force Awakens. I was a huge fan of Force Awakens. I thought it stayed so true to the history of what Star Wars. And I'm a big Star Wars nerd. So if anybody who doesn't know that, I'm probably going to get more serious than anybody actually wants me to about this. But no, I thought the first episode 7, Force Awakens, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was so true to the original Star Wars, more true than any other Star Wars film has been since the originals. Episode 8. Last Jedi, I really liked. I thought it was extremely entertaining. Storyline maybe not the greatest of Star Wars stories, but I really liked it. And some people were kind of let down with the whole Rey backstory with her dad or her parents just not being any type of actual character in the movie or in the series, or she's not related anyhow. She's just kind of random. Some people were kind of let down by that. But dude, I thought the actual movie itself, it kept me entertained, and I've watched it many times. I've watched it 5 or 6 different times.
Let me jump in here on that. To me, it's a bridge episode almost.
Yeah.
It's going to bridge the first with the third one. And what cracks me up with it is the fact that fans after the first one, the Force Awakens, weren't happy with it. They said, it's too similar to the originals. They didn't do anything new. And then in The Last Jedi, they do some new stuff, and everyone's like, that's dumb, and it's not like the originals.
Yeah,
it's just like, I
can't win for losing.
I feel bad for anyone that does a Star Wars movie right now because you're never going to make the fans happy. I mean, you're just not going to.
So I will admit, as big of a Star Wars fan as I am, I did not bring myself to see Solo. I didn't like the way it looked on the trailer, and I could be proven completely wrong. I will watch it. I'm gonna watch it when it comes out on DVD. I'm gonna watch it.
You will be proven wrong.
Okay. I can't judge that one because I haven't seen it, but I will say Rogue One, I wasn't impressed with on Rogue One. It just, to me, the Star Wars, 7 and 8, they felt, you just get the feel with the editing and the different things that kind of happen in the storylines and the relationships you have with those characters. It feels like a Star Wars movie. And I know I'm getting really kind of nerdy about it, but Rogue One just didn't feel, it didn't have a I didn't feel like I was watching a Star Wars movie. I just felt like I was watching a sci-fi movie, and it was a good sci-fi movie. I don't think the movie is bad. It's not a bad movie. I just didn't see the correlation. And the one thing, Jake, and I've brought it up to you before, and you know where I'm going with this probably, but Darth Vader does not say puns. Darth Vader does not have a pun in his vocabulary. He does not turn around, force choke somebody, and say, "I hope you don't choke on your responsibility," or whatever the fuck he said. I nearly walked out of the theater whenever I heard that in Rogue One. That was the worst movie line.
I still think you overreact
No,
to that.
it just.
I mean, I see your point on that.
It's
line,
just Darth. Like
but
that's not what Darth Vader fucking does. It's just not. That's not what he does.
I will say this: the only tough thing about Solo is just adjusting to it not being Harrison Ford at first.
And I think that's
Once
my
you get
biggest
over
thing.
that, once you get, you just try to, when you watch it, just accept the fact it's not Harrison Ford. Because once you accept that, the actor actually does a really good job, and I thought it was a really big surprise because I was pretty worried it was going to suck. And I was very pleasantly surprised when I left the theater. So when you watch it, you just have to immediately throw your mind like, this guy does not look exactly like Harrison Ford. He's not going to sound exactly like him, but it's a younger version of Han Solo. It's explaining the backstory to him. It's really cool to learn his backstory, and overall, it's still a really good movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think you're right, but I do like Childish Gambino, and I thought he looked the part, and he
did a good job.
I think he does a great job as Lando. And I haven't seen the movie, but I just can kind of tell like that dude, he's got what it takes. Childish Gambino does a good job there. Well, Jake, that is it for good or not. Again, we could go for a very long time, and we've got a lot to talk about. We're probably going to skip a lot of stuff that we have as our talking points. We're gonna skip Ryan fucking Fitzpatrick McGregor style. He fucking owned Philly. We'll just leave it at that. And we're gonna skip Ohio State TCU since we already kind of touched on it. We touched on LSU and Coach O. Jake, tell us about your experience in Austin, Longhorns versus USC. You were at the game.
Yes, that was. Oh, man, that was one of the best nights of football I've ever gotten. And not just because UT won, but because kind of the quick backstory behind this was UT had been really struggling to fill up their student section and the stadium for several years now since they had brought in a new AD that they brought in when Charlie Strong came in. The student sections they were having a hard time getting to the games because there was a wristband policy where they had to go to a different building, get a wristband, then go to the game. College students want to drink beer. They don't want to go to get a wristband. So I heard the Tulsa game was like one of the best student sections they had in a really long time. And so that kind of excited me because I was like, they just lost to Maryland and they had a good student section against Tulsa. So it should be magnificent for USC. And so just all the festivities in the day, there's this thing called Bevo Boulevard. All the players get out of the bus, walk into the stadium. It's just full of UT fans lined down the street. They do this thing called Longhorn City Limits. Reckless Kelly, who is a
Did
Texas
you see Matthew
country
McConaughey?
band. Yeah, he was on the field. I mean, they showed him on screen several times.
But you didn't.
They had a McConaughey cam.
Yeah.
Meet him.
I've seen that. I went to a game last year. They did the McConaughey cam.
But the student section was full, and so the gates opened an hour and a half before kickoff. The student section was full 10 minutes after the gates opened. Students were running to their seats. They filled up that entire end zone part, and then they filled up 2 entire sections that were right as you start to like go around the U part of the stadium. Mm-hmm. They filled up 2 entire sections going all the way to the top, and they were standing from an hour and a half before the game till the end, through timeouts, through halftime. They never sat down. It was loud. I mean, I've been to a Kansas City Chiefs game, which is considered one of the loudest stadiums in the world.
Well, we both went to that game.
We both went. DKR got that loud during that game. I mean, when that blocked field goal happened, it was one of the loudest. I couldn't hear myself think. It was so loud. It was an incredible experience. It was a lot of fun, and what made it better was Texas laid a little spanking down on USC. They fell down 14-3. They gave them a little, there we go. They gave them a little cushion and then a little lead to make them feel good about themselves, and then scored, what was it? It was the next 34 points. It was 34-zip after the 14-3 start.
Yeah.
And so but overall, I mean, just as far as the game day experience, we can actually get into the game now. That was the best DKR's ever been, and I've been there during the Vince Young and the Colt McCoy eras. That was the best and the loudest DKR has ever been.
Yeah, and Jake, I wanted to bring up the point. I don't mean to be the negative Nancy here, and I watched it on TV, and like you said, the crowd was great. I've never seen the stands that full. I've never seen it before. I've never seen it that full before, and we've been number 1 in the country in my lifetime.
4,000.
Yeah, it was a record. It was a record for DKR. It was a attendance record. But my thing is, and I think we're both going to agree on this. Now, to the point, I don't know. Because I'm still not sold on Texas or Texas is back. And I don't think you are either. But I'm going to go with that USC was overrated to start the year. They're overrated going into that game, and I just don't think USC is all that great. I think they just kind of suck, honestly. With their freshman quarterback, they have a lot of issues coaching staff-wise. They don't know personnel on the field. They looked pretty lost the majority of the game, and I know the defense for the Longhorns played phenomenal. The offense got the job done. There were things like that going on, but I also just was not impressed whatsoever at all by USC. I think they would lose to Maryland if they played Maryland. I really do. I didn't see anything out of USC that was positive whatsoever, and it could have been a little bit of the Longhorns, but I don't want to get too excited right now, especially going into TCU, who we've had a very poor track record against ever since they got into the Big 12.
Yeah, I think you just kind of have to walk a tightrope. I mean, beating USC that handedly is a heck of a lot better than beating Tulsa by 7 or losing on the road to Maryland. So I definitely think a lot of it was UT finally just starting to figure some things out and play better. There's no denying that they were playing at a much higher level on the field than they were the last 2 weeks.
Agreed.
And so I think it is a positive for the program. It's a big positive for Tom Herman. He needed that win. It's not a Texas is back thing to me. I still think they're a year or two away from having the potential to do that. But I think it's a showing, hey, this Texas team is not as bad as what we saw the first 2 weeks. This is a team who can win as many games as they did last year, or maybe try to win one more, be like an 8-win team. It just shows they can be a respectable team in the Big 12, which really was all I was hoping for this year anyways. Mm-hmm. I didn't have high expectations going in this year, but after the first 2 weeks, I was worried it was going to be like a 1 or 2 win team. I mean, I was concerned, but with how they played on the field, even if USC's not that good, which I do agree with, USC is probably not that good, I still think it shows that Texas is still on the correct path. It's just going to take some time, but at least shows to me they're not taking a step backwards. Yeah,
Jake, I would agree. I'm pumping my brakes just a little bit on my excitement. Now during the game, I was screaming, I was jumping up and down, I was excited. I was screaming Texas national champs. But give me 5 minutes after the game to kind of relax a little bit, and I come to my senses. USC probably just sucks. Let's go in, Jake. Let's just go right into it. Let's jump to the NFL. Our Cowboys got a big victory on Sunday Night Football against the New York Giants. Let me say kind of my 2 cents about it, and then I'll let you do your breakdown. You've got 3 defensive and 3 offensive players of the games that you kind of want to kind of talk about. So I'm just going to kind of go through my spiel real quick, and then I'll let you have yours, and I'll jump in whenever I feel like I need to. But so my stream, I talked earlier that I have to stream. I have Sling TV, and all it does basically is just stream a broadcast from NBC. Well, NBC, my stream didn't have the commentators. I had no broadcast. I didn't have Collinsworth. I didn't have Michaels. I didn't have the sideline reporter, whatever. All I had was actual game sound. I had the referee, and I had the hits on the field and all the audibles. So it was actually fucking awesome. It was. They should play. They should honestly play more games that way. Now, yes, maybe the excitement and the information isn't there, but to actually see legit football and like seeing calls at the line of Eli and Dak, and, offensive linemen making calls, you can actually hear all that shit without Collinsworth blabbering his mouth. And you got to hear some play calls. One I heard was Philly, Philly, Philly. That was from Dak. Philly, RPO. It's automatic. They're automatically going to an RPO, and that was every single time he called Philly. That's whenever he ran an RPO, and it was so fun to watch. It was very interesting to watch, and I also thought I texted you during the game actually and said that Linehan had actually improved a lot. His play calling, he took a lot of criticism in week 1, and I hate the guy. I think he should be fired. I still think he should be fired, but I think that his play calling early in the game, let me clarify, early on was very good, and then we got that lull of like the end of the second quarter, middle of the third quarter, where the whole game was just kind of I don't remember watching the game during that point because it was so boring. It was both 3 and outs for both teams, and the offense was just not there. And then the final drive to put it away with Zeke's 1-yard touchdown, and Dak had a masterful drive throughout, was great play calling. It was RPOs, it was reverses, it was quick passes over the middle, it was Dak throwing down the field a little bit, it was keeping the defense honest, which is why can't we fucking do that? Why can't we have that play call every series? I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense to me. Linehan just wants whatever he does and forcing that to work whenever he can't just admit to the new age, college style pro offense that we need to be running, RPO style. That's the kind of team that we have. That's the players we have. And lastly, what I'm going to end off with is the defense is number 1 in the league in total defense and pass defense as well. Number 1 through 2 weeks, granted, but it's something to hold your hat on, and you're going up against a very shitty offensive line, and 6 sacks for the Hot Boys. Just an all-around just great game defensively. I don't have any critiques on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and kind of to your point on that lull, I mean, that was also just because this is a defense that even when the Cowboys were 13-3, they struggled against. I mean, the Giants just match up very well against the Cowboys because they can't do a lot of things. And unfortunately, that's been the first 2 weeks for the Cowboys, going against great front sevens. Some of the basically two of the, other than the Eagles, the top 2 front sevens they'll see throughout the whole start of the year.
I don't know about the Giants. It was Snacks Harrison, yes, but I don't really know anybody else on the front 7.
I mean, I'd have to look it up, but they're known to be able to stop the run pretty well, and they just seem scheme-wise to have our number over the last few years, even though we've had their number in wins and losses now, but. So I was able to dive into the film a little bit, not as much as I'd like. I've had a sinus infection and stuff, so I haven't really been doing much on the computer, but I have been able to look at it at least once all the way through. And so what I'm doing this week is I'm going to basically do my 3 stars of the game on offense, my 3 stars of the game on defense. I'll just kind of go over what I saw on film just real briefly, and then if you want to ask any questions about anyone, Tanner, I'll answer that as well. But I'll start out with the defense, and kind of this is basically the standard I'm going to set for this. DeMarcus Lawrence is exempt. He cannot be in this because otherwise he would be the number 1 star every week.
Every week.
Because he is
between him and Sean Lee.
He is, and actually Sean Lee is. He was better against the Giants, but it still wasn't his best game.
Oh, no.
You can tell he's still shaking off some rust tackling-wise, but he is getting there. But DeMarcus Lawrence is just the best player on the field whenever he's out there. So I'll start with my 3rd star, if you will. It would be Byron Jones. He's a guy who's gotten a lot of criticism, was taken in the 1st round. They couldn't decide whether they want him at corner or safety. I think a lot of this has to do with Chris Richard coming in, sticking him at corner and saying, hey, I believe in you. You're exactly the guy I want at corner. And, man, has Byron Jones lived up to it. He had a great performance against Carolina. He had another great performance against the Giants now. And the Giants are stacked at receiver. The Giants are a lot better at receiver than Carolina was.
Way better.
And even when Eli, did have time to throw, obviously he was under a lot of pressure, there was no one open. And a lot of that was Byron Jones and Chidobe Awuzie on that, both playing great coverage. The only downfield play that they got was that perfect throw from Eli where Awuzie still had really good coverage. And so I was really impressed with especially Byron Jones. I mean, he was just locked down. There was no getting open if Byron Jones was on you in that game.
Yeah, I think his length really bothers, and that's what Chris Richard's kind of MO is. Former Legion of Boom coach for that secondary and defensive coordinator for those Seattle teams, and that's whenever you first started seeing these really big corners in the league. Where you had Brandon Browner, I think was his name. Sherman, obviously. Chancellor was huge. The only small one that was his exception was Earl Thomas. And Earl Thomas is possibly one of the best safeties to possibly ever play the game. But it's just, you see that now, and you see a very, not mediocre, but amateur comparatively to like Richard Sherman. I'm not saying anybody on this defense is Richard Sherman on secondary, but you're starting to see just a little bit of a shadow, some of these guys kind of creeping up on what can be a future Legion of Boom with Chris Richard running that defense.
Yeah, making names for themselves. People are always quick to say, "Oh, that defense, they don't really have any big names." It's like, well, that's how everyone starts. You become a big name by playing really good. Yeah. And so this defense is definitely on track to have a lot of big names. And my second star of the game would be Damian Wilson. I thought he was all
phenomenal
over the field on special teams, on defense. He forced the turnover. I just thought he flowed really well to the ball. He did a really good job with his first step. In football, no matter what position you are, your first step is so important, because if you go the wrong way, you're putting yourself out of position. Like if you're a lineman and it's a run block and your first step is backwards, which is called a false step, you're screwed. You're going to get beat on the play. You should never false step. And so for a linebacker, a lot of that comes with your eyes, and I thought Wilson saw the field really well. He seemed to flow with the ball. He was fast. He was explosive. I really thought he just had a really good game. Him and Jalen Smith on that point. Jalen Smith, he's not on this list, but he would be that honorable mention. When a defense plays as good as they did, it's kind of hard to throw as many people in there as you want. But Jalen Smith played great. But I know you agree with me on Damian Wilson. I thought he was just outstanding.
Yeah, well, my thing with Damian Wilson is that something that these other linebackers don't do is play special teams. And I saw him almost on every single special teams play, whether it be kickoff, on punt, whatever it was. Damian Wilson was down there, and he was playing phenomenal. He was playing really, really good on every single aspect of his game, defensively, special teams, whatever it needed to be. And that sack strip, that the fumble was just, that was such a beautiful play executed, and you got to give credit where credit's due. That's the defensive line. You know, those four guys down there on the defensive line are the ones that took their blocks on, and they had him shoot up that gap, and he just had a straight shot at Eli, and Taco Charlton with the fumble recovery on that play. And I know you're not going to touch on this player, so I'm just a quick little fun fact, and then you can get back onto your number one star of the game. But Kayvon Frazier, first sack of his entire football career came Sunday night against Eli Manning in the New York Giants. So that's kind of a cool little factoid for those who don't know really even who Kayvon Frazier is. He's a safety for the Cowboys. First sack of his NFL career, of his football career. That's college, high school, anything, on Eli Manning on Sunday Night Football. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, and that was actually a play that kind of opened up his performance. He struggled early in the game, and after he kind of started to get his confidence back. And there's a really cool thing if you go watch on Cowboys Dallas
Chris Richard's pep talk.
Chris Richard's pep talk. I love Chris Richard.
He's the head coach in 3 years, if not 2 years.
Yeah, and after that point where Chris Richard talked to Kayvon Frazier because he was missing tackles, he turned it around and had a really good game. My first star of the game though is Taco Charlton. Not only because, he got a sack, he was a first-round pick last year, but if you just watch the film, the Giants did invest some into their offensive line, especially at the left tackle position. Because keep in mind, DeMarcus Lawrence is always going against the right tackle. Mm-hmm. They always put him on that side at left defensive end. So Taco Charlton won the battle against Nate Soldier, who's getting paid like the most out of any offensive lineman in the NFL. He won that battle almost every time. I mean, Soldier looked like he had his hands full against an all-pro type defensive end.
Yeah.
The improvement for Taco Charlton from last year to this year is just ridiculous. He plays with a lot better balance. He plays with a lot better strength. You can tell he really strengthened up his speed, his quickness. He's a lot more refined in his moves.
Yeah, what I've noticed,
he looked really lost.
Yeah, what I've noticed, Jake, is with the lost thing, I don't want you to forget where you're at. His hands. Much more active with his hands. He used to just only have like one move. He tried to bull rush, or he tried to bend around that left tackle. This year, he's so much more active with his hands, and he's more wax on, wax off type of player on the defensive line than he was last year. But you go ahead and continue.
And not just in pass rush, but he's done and the reason why he's on the field so much right now is because he's so good against the run. I even think when Randy Gregory comes back this week, he's going to see more snaps than Gregory because Gregory's more of a pure pass rush guy, where Taco he's doing so well against run and pass. He's never going to be a liability when he's on the field. Through the first 2 weeks, Taco Charlton has been kind of a name that hasn't been thrown around much because so many stupid fans were just quick to call him a bust after 1 year.
He's a bust after week one.
Yeah, I mean, after week one, people were going, why'd we draft Taco Charlton? He didn't do anything. It's like, yeah, Vic Beasley sucked his first year. It takes time. Mm-hmm. But Taco Charlton, just as a whole, I thought his game was really good. And then kind of along the theme of first-round picks, I will say Leighton Vander Esch deserves an honorable mention.
Yeah.
He didn't really have any splash plays, but he just had a really just sound game. He didn't really miss any tackles. He was great in the open field.
Yes.
And he was like second or third in tackles for the Cowboys.
What I want to talk. I just want to say, there's not a better open field tackler except for Sean Lee on this team than Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, there were times where he had wide receivers in the open field one-on-one. He had Saquon Barkley, I think, twice in the open field one-on-one, and just lined him up, broke down just the most fundamentally basic tackling formation that you could have with Leighton Vander Esch, and it is so pure. His tackling form is the purest form. Him and Sean Lee are so good at just in open field. And Leighton Vander Esch, like you said, didn't miss a tackle in the open field. I thought that was the most impressive. That's why I was so high on him in this game, was his open field tackling.
Oh, and defensive play of the game, by the way, goes to Jalen Smith, who stayed locked down, step-for-step coverage with Odell Beckham down the field, which was the play where Jeff Heath ended up catching it or intercepting it, but he was out of bounds.
Yeah.
But if you watch that play, and you can find it on Twitter if you go back and watch it, Jalen Smith literally covered Odell Beckham like a corner. I mean, it was
step
ridiculous.
for step, stride for stride.
And so if you haven't seen that, even if you're not a Cowboys fan, if you want to see a linebacker do something absolutely ridiculous, especially a guy like Jalen Smith who's so easy to like because of what he went through at college with basically destroying his knee and his nerves, it was pretty amazing. And but I'll go ahead and move on to offense now. And my third star of the game, even though he didn't touch the ball a ton, didn't have the biggest stat line ever, it's going to be Tavon Austin, because when he had opportunities, he made the best. And not just because of the touchdown play, but I thought his best play of the game was actually when he ran that double move
the curl route.
And it was a double move to set up for the comeback.
Yeah.
And then Dak placed it perfectly. But it'll be interesting to see if Tavon Austin, if they start trusting him more and more. He definitely got a lot more snaps this week than last week as just a true receiver. But he's showing that he's not just a gadget guy. He showed it during preseason. He showed it during training camp. And now he showed it in this game. When they asked him to line up as a receiver and run routes, he's a pretty good route runner. I was impressed with any snap he was in. He seemed to be doing the right type of things. And so I think he's a guy who slowly, his snap count's going to go up each week.
Yeah.
And he's going to make more plays.
And I think that the more Tavon Austin is involved in the offense, regardless if it's a big play or not, the more he gets his hands on the ball, and I know you've got to spread it around, you've got to get Zeke his touches, you've got to get your other guys involved, you want Michael Gallup involved, you want Hearns involved, but I think if you get more touches, the more touches you get in Tavon Austin's hands, the bigger possibility of a great drive, a setting up something else. You may get a 2-yard screen to Tavon. That's fine. You're going to get that defense to scoot up just a little bit more each time, and that's going to set up Deontay Thompson on a big streak, or it's going to set up a Zeke run to the outside, or it's just getting Austin involved to set something up either for Tavon Austin himself or for somebody else. But the more of a weapon and the more the defense has to focus on him, it opens up guys like Zeke. If you can take a little bit, just a smidgen of focus off of Ezekiel Elliott, that dude's popping off for a 50-yard gain.
Yeah, and so my second star of the game now is going to be Dak Prescott. He didn't light up the stat sheet. But if you go back and you just watch the coach's film, he was playing a chess game with the defense. He's in his third year. He's looking to take a big step forward. He saw the field a lot better this game than he did against Carolina. I thought a really good job by Linehan to get him going early because he saw the field really well as far as making tight windowed throws. Even if it was only, a 5 or 10 yard route, he was making some really tough throws that he made look easy. And then, of course, the perfect bomb to Tavon Austin to start out the game. That was huge. It set the tone. Running the ball, I just thought he did a great, and another thing he did a great job of that doesn't show up on the stat sheet was he recognized blitzes and he changed the pass protection, whether it be from the running back or the offensive line perspective. You could see him make a call, and he was reading who was going to blitz. And actually, there was one play on the broadcast where the commentators even mentioned it. He was literally calling out the exact blitz that the Giants were going to do, adjusted it, and then threw like a 20-yard pass. So I just thought, that was a really big game for Dak. He needed that after struggling against Carolina. I think especially as they finally start to move on to playing not defenses like Carolina and the Giants, I think we're going to see his numbers go up as well.
Yeah, I thought Dak played the game that he needed to play. Trey Wingo, everybody should know who that is. If you follow sports, Trey Wingo is he hosts NFL Live. He's on Golic and Wingo. He's on ESPN, big shot guy. And for the most part, I like what he has to say. He said something about Dak that I kind of disagreed with, and he talked about his record when he's thrown for under 200 yards. It wasn't his record, but he's thrown for under 200 yards in 9 out of the last 12 games for the Dallas Cowboys. And I said, well, they also still kind of have a winning record in those last 9 games with, when you have your full squad around you. But Dak is never going to be Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, Rivers, Roethlisberger. He's never going to be that quarterback who you can line up and throw it 40 times. If you're doing that, you're down by 30 already. What Dak needs to do is Dak needs to convert third downs. He needs to not turn the ball over, and he needs to he just needs to complete passes, whether it be 2 yards, 5 yards, and stay ahead of the chains. He's got 3 jobs. Stay ahead of the chains, don't turn the ball over, convert third downs. That is Dak Prescott's job as the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and I thought I thought he did a good job of that in this game. And not only that, but neither is Russell Wilson, by the way. He's not the guy you want to have to carry your team, and it's starting to show because the Seahawks don't have everything around him. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean Russell Wilson's not a great quarterback like everyone else says. It's just all about perspective. They've won a Super Bowl with them, even though it's a defense, and even though Russell Wilson wasn't near as good a player as he is now, at that point when he won the Super Bowl.
He's a better quarterback now than he was when he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I think I might have flopped it, but you get what I was trying to say. And so I think Dak Prescott can be just kind of obviously a bigger version as far as pure physical size and a different running ability, but he could be a similar type quarterback to Russell Wilson. I think that's what he is. And not only that, you don't need an Aaron Rodgers or a Drew Brees to win a Super Bowl. You don't need a Tom Brady.
Well, you might need a Tom Brady, but you don't need a Breeze or a Rodgers because they only have 1 Super Bowl, and they've been in the league for like 17 fucking years or something. They each only have 1 Super Bowl. You know who also has Super Bowls? Eli has 2 of them. Wilson has 1 of them. It's kind of hard because Brady has won them all, it seems like. But
and Roethlisberger, the years that he won them, there was maybe 1 year where he was actually considered an elite quarterback.
Well, Roethlisberger doesn't have a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, his first Super Bowl, for sure his first, he was not that great of a quarterback at the time. He just did enough. He had a great defense. He had a good rushing game. He had good receivers. And really that was, even for his second Super Bowl, that was kind of what it was.
Yeah.
And so Big Ben, I would argue, the best years of his career as a quarterback, he didn't win Super Bowls. Why? Because the team around him wasn't as good.
Right.
Football is the ultimate team sport.
Yeah.
More than basketball, more than any other sport. Not one guy is going to carry your team. I mean, not to a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is the perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. To me, it's not even arguable as far as pure arm talent and as a pure quarterback. Forget about winning and all that. he's the best quarterback to ever play the game, but yet he only has one Super Bowl.
Yeah. All right, Jake, we'll go ahead and talk about your number one guy.
Yeah. And so my number one star, basically at this point, it was going to be someone from the offensive line because I thought the offensive line played so much better this week than they did last week.
Can I guess who it is?
Big bounce back performance for. Yes, you can.
Can I try? I'm gonna say Zach Martin.
And you're actually wrong. And so Zach Martin had a great game. At this point, it's just expectation for him. But a guy who really blew me away on the film this week, especially if you look at the improvement from week 1 to week 2, Connor Williams.
Yeah.
My number one star of the game on offense. I thought his improvement, I thought this game, I was worried about this game for him because against Carolina, even though, I did say, and I still stand by it, he did grade out better on the Carolina film than most fans would realize. He never really got beat in this game, and he was having to line up against guys like Snacks Harrison, and I'd have to look at the Giants roster, but some other guys on their defensive line who are some guys who are just much physically bigger than him. They're guys who have given us problems in the past, and I thought Connor Williams stepped in. He did a great job. He did a really good job of getting up to the second level, and that's the main reason why he's my first star. His ability to get off double teams and get up to the second level and get to the linebacker level opened up when we were running the ball successfully, and especially on some of Dak's runs. Connor Williams was behind a lot of those. We weren't just relying on running behind Zach Martin, and instead I thought Connor Williams had a really big game. Great footwork. The only thing he's really got to improve on, to me, to become a potential Pro Bowl lineman is he's just got to get stronger.
Yeah.
But we're not going to see that happen until probably, next year and the year after when he gets some off seasons in him. But I think as of right now, he's going to be a good starter on this offensive line for the rest of the year, and he's only going to get better because that front is very similar as far as just D linemen. Their linebackers aren't as good as Carolina, obviously, because Luke Kuechly, but their D linemen are just as good as Carolina's, I would say. And he showed that he learned from his mistakes in the Carolina game, and I thought he was probably in the top 2 or 3 offensive linemen for the Cowboys in that game, and that's saying a lot when you're looking at guys like Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, and Lael Collins, who all had great games.
Yeah, and Jake, I'm starting to get a little iffy on Lael Collins, but that can be a conversation for another day. We're getting a little long here, but I'm not sold on Lael yet. I know you like him a lot.
You gotta watch the whole
I'm
film.
trying.
You can't get mad about one penalty.
I know. No, it's not one penalty. I just don't. I see constant pressure from the right side, and I'll leave it at that. But Jake, I wanted to ask you about Connor Williams. It's hard, while you're watching the game, and you get so caught up in it. It does help a lot to go back and film. Are they using him in screens? Just try to answer this as quickly as you can. On pulling, how is he pulling? How is he out in open field on screens? If they're using him at all in those situations.
So that's where his strength is right now because he's so quick. He has such good footwork. He's able to get up to that second level really quick, and on screens even get up to safety level and push those linebackers and safeties around because that's where his strength isn't going to bother him at all. The only time strength is going to be an issue for him is when he's getting bull rushed or if he's having to block, a 325-pound D lineman straight up on a run block situation. His strength right now is getting him out in the open field where he can go up, get to a linebacker, get to a safety, get to a corner. In the screen games, he's done really well. It's actually been Joe Looney, Tyron Smith, who have struggled in kind of the screens, in the screen type plays and in pulling because every now and then you do pull the center around, and that's where like Joe Looney and Tyron Smith have actually struggled through the first 2 games. But I think Zach Martin's really done a good job because I think Zach Martin's the one who's coaching up Connor Williams on how to pull. When you pull, and this will be my last kind of technical point real quick, when you pull, obviously on like a run play, let's say you're running a power and your right side of your line, since Connor Williams is the left guard, is going to be double teaming the nose guard up to the linebacker level. More than likely, that's the front you'll be looking at. So Connor Williams is pulling around and then going up to linebacker level. When you pull around, you want to take a good angle. You want to be really tight on the double team's butt and straight up to linebacker level and to get a block. Connor Williams does a great job of, it's called scraping against that double team to give yourself the best angle to get upfield. That's where, to me, Connor Williams is strongest at, and I'd like to see us keep getting him involved in the screen game, keep pulling him, trusting him to do that, because he did a really nice job.
Yeah, and Jake, well, that let's just wrap that up, and let's talk just as quickly as we possibly can what we feel about the Seattle game coming up for the Dallas Cowboys at Seattle. It's their home opener. They're 0-2. Dallas is 1-1, and I am so confident. It has been actually a while since I've been this confident going into a football game for the Dallas Cowboys of what I think my expectations are, and it's not offensively. I don't think Seattle can win this game because of our defense. I liked them so much that I picked them up on fantasy, and I have not picked up a Dallas defense in fantasy ever, because they've always sucked. And so I am so sold. I'm all in on this Cowboy defense. I'm starting them this week against Seattle. Their offensive line sucks. They're bad. Offensively, they have nobody. They have one player on the starting 11. One, and that is their quarterback. They have one guy. They don't have running backs. They don't have receivers. They don't have tight ends. They don't have offensive linemen. They have one guy on offense. And to me personally, I really like the Cowboys in this game. I really like the Cowboys in this game.
I like the Cowboys in this game. I'm not as enthusiastic as you are, just because Seattle always looks like a different team on the road than they do at home. And so it's just kind of I'll believe it when I see it, of them struggling at home. So I expect this to be a closer game than I'd like. I think the Cowboys are a lot better team, but I just have such respect for Seattle when they play at home that I'm pumping my brakes. And especially you picking them up on the defense. I have them on one of my teams, but you picking them up probably guarantees the loss, because you're just going to jinx the crap out of us. So if they lose, I'm going to blame you.
Yes.
But I do think this game, I just hope it's a young team. You're playing in one of the top two. Them and the Chiefs are the most, and the Broncos are the top three by far hardest places to play on the road.
I'd put Lambeau up there.
In Lambeau, but as far as pure crowd noise, and I've actually been to Lambeau for that playoff game, as far as pure crowd noise, I do think it's those three. And so I think it's going to be interesting. If the Cowboys can go out there and dominate this game like they should, there should be a lot of hype around them all of a sudden, because I think Seattle's a team they should be able to put away and win this game where they're ahead by a good amount in the third quarter. But for some reason, I think it's going to be a close, stressful game because Seattle's just such a good home team.
All right, well, Jake, that will do it for episode 4 of the Fanboys. We are fans talking as fans for the fans. Thanks again for listening. We appreciate all the support. Keep sharing, keep spreading the word. Do your thing, fans. We love you. We'll be back next week. Thank you and good night.